Welcome to episode 12 of the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast with Brandon Salazar, your go-to destination for expert perspectives and valuable insights from the world of business. Today I'm here with Gene Kutcher, the Dean at Brodsky College of Business. And before we get into the questions, I'd like to thank Dean Kutcher for being a guest on the podcast.
Brandon, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I love that you're doing this, and I'm very happy to support you and the podcast.
Thank you. So let's start with tell me about your early life and career that led you to where you are today.
Well, let's talk about college. I grew up not too far away from Ryder, actually. I grew up in Monmouth County, a typical suburban upbringing. I had a twin brother, a wonderful family, and I went to school at Rutgers. Did undergraduate at Rutgers. I studied business and management, and I studied psychology. And I was a good student, and I had great experiences. I got involved in, different types of activities. I kind of always wanted to stay in college, which I think partly shaped my career of working in higher ed eventually. But like I said, I studied management and psychology. I didn't find this field of industrial organizational psychology though until my senior year. So, and so for anybody who's listening who isn't aware of that, it's the academic scholarly study of people at work. And so I realized this is something that I want to study more. Of course, I'm a senior at this point already. So I ended up going to grad school just to learn more about it. I didn't necessarily have a career path identified or knew where it was going to take me, but I knew I wanted to study it more. So I started out, there's a program up at Montclair State. I started just taking non-matriculated courses, and eventually I enrolled in this master's program. And so I loved it, and I kept going. I eventually was a graduate assistant there. I started doing some teaching, mostly grading and administrative help, but I started teaching a little bit. And so I thought, oh, this might be something for me. But I think those are some of the experiences, and then I'll talk a little bit more in a little bit, but those are some of the experiences that got me started thinking, okay, so there's actually maybe a career where I don't ever have to leave college. And so like here I am now, never really having left, although it took a little trips in and out. But so I think those were pretty important as I was coming up in terms of shaping where my career might go.
Yeah, it's nice how you mentioned it's almost like often I hear it's like the unsuspecting opportunities that you're able to get are the ones that are going to change your life. Like for example, on another one of my other episodes, it was mentioned how starting at the IT department actually at Rider University
Uh-huh.
led to a career at Microsoft, and it was never understood. It would never have been thought of that starting an IT department at Rider would lead him to there, but
Yeah,
it did, and it changed his life. And going into something like going into something new may be like challenging and scary, but
yeah,
I feel like this also leads to just starting somewhere, finding something that you're good at, and enjoy it and put all your passion into it is something that could really just help you in life.
totally. Very well said.
Thank you. And then this leads on to the next question of can you talk about a pivotal moment or decision in your career that significantly impacted your trajectory?
Yes. I'm sure that most people listening probably can point to like an educator, a teacher, a faculty member, a professor, a coach, a mentor, someone like that in their life who made all the difference. And, I have a couple of them I'm very grateful for. But there's one person I could think of. I mentioned before that I went into a master's program at Montclair, and I did a little bit of teaching, like a guest lecture here, a tutoring session there. And one of my professors, her name is Jennifer Bragger. She directed that program at Montclair. And one day she said, you really should go on for your doctorate. I could see you doing this. And so I tucked it away. I didn't do anything about it at the time. It kind of was already set in a different path. But the fact that someone I respected so much thought that this is something that I could do, that stuck with me. So, all right, so there I am. I decide I had a couple great internships. I was working in industry after I graduated Montclair. I had a really nice job. I had a great boss who actually happened to be a Rider alum. That's maybe one of the first times that Rider kind of crept into my thoughts there. But had a great job. I was making money, more money than I thought I was going to. Every year I was getting some kind of merit increase or cost of living increase. Jen Bragger, I've talked about her already. She came and asked me if I'd like to teach an adjunct one course at Montclair one night a week. Um, and so I had already said, okay, well, it's nice that she thinks of me as a candidate to go ahead for my doctorate. I don't see that going. I was about to get married at that point. I had a life course I kind of already set out. Um, but it kept coming back to me. It kept nagging at me like, I'm not sure if this is 100% right. Well, there was one year, talk about pivotal moments. There was one year where kind of none of those reasons for saying no to getting my PhD were there anymore. So I think my boss had moved into a different role, so I had a different boss, and because of cost cutting at that firm, I didn't get a raise that year. Something small, but it was really meaningful for me. And a full-time faculty member at Montclair wanted to take that course back, so I no longer got to adjunct. And I was no longer in that relationship. It was like everything was kind of that I had always said. These are reasons not to do it. We're not there anymore, and I couldn't find a good reason not to do it. And my gut was telling me, I think it's time. If you really want to work in higher ed, it's time to go back, get your doctorate degree. So, and it's a big sacrifice. You're making a salary, and now you have to go into a residential full-time program. They support you for a very modest income. Um, you're disrupting what you've got going on for 4 or 5 years to get your PhD, but it's really the only way that I could have that kind of a career that I thought. So it was all of those things not happening, and Jen Bragger telling me, I think that you'd be good at this. All that together made me say, okay, I think the signs, as much as I tried to ignore them for a while, there are signs that are building up that saying, go back, get your doctorate degree, and, see where that'll take you. So that's what I think of when you ask me that question.
I like how you mentioned that people impact your life more than you think. So
Yeah.
for example, that's why I really enjoy my time at Rider more profoundly than when I hear my friends say they're going to these big schools
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
granted top level ranking computer science programs, business programs, but I like to argue the fact that if you're not making significant connections in the long run, it's not going to help. And I feel
Yeah.
like at Rider, I've really been able to make significant connections with my teachers and just everyone I come into contact with. It's better because it's not that it's easier to stand out. It's just you're allowed to stand out more because there's so few people. Like I can't imagine going to a school with like 40,000 people
Yeah.
because there's no connections that are significant or profound in your life. But
Totally. I'm so
that,
happy to hear you say that too. I mean, that's kind of what I love about Rider the most. And I did my doctorate at Virginia Tech. I told you other schools. I was at PwC, huge firm. Like always kind of in you know, large institutions. And when I came to Rider as my first academic job, I thought, oh, I'd never been in an institution like this. I never kind of felt the community neighborhood type of feeling. I remember someone asked me, I think it was for like a recruiting video after my first year, tell me about what it's like at Rider. And I remember saying this at the time, and this is only after 1 year. And I said, you can't really walk from Swigert Hall, the business building, over to the BLC without running into a few people that and so it does feel like it's this neighborhood, this community, and I think that we work hard to all of us, you, me, all, to make it that way and to keep it going and to appreciate that so I'm happy to hear you say that. That's always been what I felt too.
thank you. And I like how you mentioned that you can't walk from Swigert Hall without saying hi to someone. And it's funny stories because I'll be on the phone with people who are walking to other buildings, and I'll hear them say hi to at least 10 people sometimes. It's like they're
Yeah.
celebrities at some point, but it's not. It's because it's such a good community and such a like tight knit community that everyone is willing to help each other and go out of their way to even just say hi, even if everyone's not that close with each other. So that's
Yeah.
what I really like as well.
Good. Good. I'm happy to hear you say that too.
And let's go to this question. So, how did your extensive time at Rider University community impact you, and what have you learned from your time at Rider?
I think really the first thing I think of is that idea of community. I mean, I started here in 2007 as a faculty member in the management department. Um, and Rider's that kind of a place where, yes, you're a faculty member, yes, you're teaching, yes, you're doing your research, but you also have to help the university run. I mean, we've got a culture here where every faculty member you get to know, they contribute, outside of what you see in the classroom, outside of the research that they're writing and presenting and publishing, they also are on some type of committee, whether it's governance or something related to a student club or organization or, policy making or something related to faculty or curriculum or the college. So I realized that whole idea that you mentioned before about community, Again, having only been at larger institutions, I said, I feel like I'm really making a contribution. Pretty early, I learned that there's expectations, there's standards, you got to pitch in, and that's part of what the writer culture is. And so, I think that that coming into the student experience has also made students feel like they're really part of something when they're here.
Yeah, and speaking about being a part of something at Rider, this actually is perfect for the next question.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to the incoming freshmen regarding getting involved at Rider University and making the most out of their time here and having a profound impact?
Yes. So, what I just said about being here for 1 year myself, I also think Rider's a great place for freshmen. It's a really great place for transfer students who might only be here for a couple years. And it's a great place for international students who might be here for 1 year. And I say all that because, at a lot of bigger schools or other schools that just have a culture like this, there's a lot of like waiting your turn, paying your dues until you have a chance to really contribute. And so I've seen freshmen come in and they start a club when they notice there's one that's not here like what they want. And you could do that. You could do that here. Or become leaders. They make a contribution, they become a leader, an officer, an executive member, a captain, a mentor, even in their first or second year. And so one thing I'll say when a student is new is to really get a lay of the land, but also really own this whole engaged learning idea. I mean, it's more than a requirement that you need for graduation. I really buy into this whole engaged learning philosophy that we have here that, our programs are excellent, our courses, our curriculum, our majors, they're all excellent. However, I've seen students really, really, you know, take off, really find a vehicle to get from where they are now to the path that they want to be on through these engaged learning experiences. And so, yes, they're categories on a website, but it's so much more than that. I think it's a way that students can connect with things that mean something to them, whether that's community service, whether it's leading a club or an organization, whether it's seeing the world in an international trip or a semester abroad, or, certainly in the business school, we love when students do their internships and their co-ops and they practice what the skills that they're going to need for when they graduate. And engaged learning, I think, is there's a structure in place, there's ideas, there's options, there's lists, there's a structure in place for students to say, okay, so this is what I'm studying, this is what I'm majoring, but this is where I want to go in my life, these are things that mean something to me. And you know get started with engaged learning right away. In fact, there's that freshman year experience, which is where freshmen can go to 6 different events in their first year, and that already counts as one of 6 points they need. It's a great way to get a point, but even better, it's a great place to see what's going on campus, because all of it's here for you, and it's just a matter of knowing, what's right for you. And I'm an academic dean, so I first think about all the great clubs that we have in the business school, or Delta Sigma Pi is the business fraternity, or um, but it's so much more than academics. It's the cultural, it's the club sports, it's the Greek life, it's Model UN and student government and Rider News, and like all these things that people can really throw themselves into, and they're all there waiting for someone to make a contribution. It's all right there for the taking. So I don't know if that's so much of advice or just babble, but I really feel strongly like engaged learning is a great structure for people to get engaged.
Yeah, and to highlight that, it's really important to get involved. I couldn't see myself being where I am right now if I wasn't involved.
Yeah,
And to highlight also Delta Sigma Pi,
yeah,
it's more than just it's first, don't get the misconception, it's a frat. It's one of the most best things you could join. If any freshman hears this, I highly encourage you to join Delta Sigma Pi.
yeah. I
It's
second.
changed my life
I
completely.
second that. It's a great club, and you're right. Yes, it's academic. Yes, it's a fraternity. It's the best of all of that, and it
It's a
helps.
brotherhood. Yeah, it's a brotherhood.
It helps in terms of your career, in terms of your social, everything. I think that it's pretty all encompassing. It's a great group.
Yeah, I've seen people come out of their shells, be much more open to talking to people. Public speaking. Public speaking is a big thing that we focus on there,
Yeah,
as it's something that we think it's the best way to get just like to know people. It's one of the
yeah,
best skills I actually personally think is to have public speaking. And
yeah.
then the hard skills. If you want to do coding, know how to code. If you want to be an accountant, know all the rules. If you
Hmm.
want to do finance, know how finance works. But
Hmm.
public speaking is the best way to get your point across in any setting.
100%. It's great to have these knowledge bases and this skill set, but being able to communicate that in a way that can bring value to people, that's really what makes it work.
Yeah. And then this is a little bit of a change of a question, but if you
Yeah.
were not the dean of the Norm Brodsky College of Business, what would you want to be?
So I have an easy answer and then I have a better answer. So my easy answer is that I'd be on the faculty. I feel like there's no better job in the world than being a faculty member at a university. You get autonomy in terms of what you research and study and publish and, your schedule to an extent and and the meaningfulness of working with students on a daily basis. So there's no better job than being a faculty member. That's my easy answer. And I like being a dean. I'm happy to have the privilege of serving as a dean for longer, but if ever they decide I'm no longer useful, I will be a faculty member. I have an appointment here, and that's wonderful to think about too. My better answer though is I want to I love game shows. So, Brandon, you and I have something in common because I also have a podcast here, the Norm Brodsky College of Business podcast, Off the Clock. And I'll tell you a quick story. So, on ours, whenever we have an episode, I pick some topic related to business or business education or career, and I ask on three people, one student, one faculty member, one alum, with this idea that they each have a different perspective on this topic. We recorded our first one back in the pandemic, and I had Lindsay Alvarado. She used to be a career coach. She's taught career planning. I had a student at the time named Michelle Isaac doing great things now. And I had Andrew Toskovich as an alum. Now he's at J&J, recruits a lot of our students. And our topic was about co-ops and internships and how important they are. I did a great interview with each of these three people, and I was like, there's something missing from this. So then I said, what I want to do is bring all these three back, and we're going to play a fun, like, game show style game, like in the style of NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me or something like that. So that's what we do now on every episode. And we bring all three back, we play a game at the end, and it's my way of my real passion of writing for or hosting or producing a game show, which is what I always say that I'm saving these episodes that I record of Off the Clock as a portfolio that I'll send to NPR one day. So that's what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this. I'd try to be working in the game show biz.
That's very interesting and very cool to hear. So
Right.
also, this is also an interesting question. What is your favorite place to eat on campus?
Hands down, my favorite place to eat is Saxby's. So it's right here. The Swigert Hall smells fantastic ever since Saxby's came into town. So it's the grilled cheese. But even better than that, it is engaged learning at its best. They hire a student to be their CEO, and I'm thinking of Madison Radner and Minhal before her, and Grace Ramsey and Kaylina and Anna Corelli, and we've had great writer students who serve as Saxby CEOs. I've gotten the privilege of getting to know Nick Bayer, the founder and CEO of Saxby's. He has a great story to tell about it, but I love that it's right downstairs. I love that it's a gathering place. It's always very lively, and it adds to what's special about riders. So I like I like the buffalo grilled cheese, but I love the fact that this is something that's uniting people and as part of our community.
So believe it or not, I only really ate at Saks for the second time on the third to last week of school.
Is that right?
And
Okay.
yeah, and I after that, I think almost every day I was there like at 7 o'clock as soon as it opened, and I was studying because it also happened to be like the week or two before finals.
Yeah.
So I was already doing some pre-studying. So, but that's something everyone would tell me to go there, but that's another thing for freshmen. Go to
Go
Saxby's.
to Saxby's. Go to Saxby. Get a job at Saxby's. They're great down there. Good teamwork, camaraderie. I know you have to wait sometimes, but it's, a price to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that wraps up our with the last question. I would like to thank you for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us. And that wraps up episode 12 of the 15-minute coffee podcast with Brandon Salazar. We hope you've enjoyed gaining insights from our guests and exploring the world of business with us. Don't forget to check out our podcast on social media at the 15-minute coffee podcast on YouTube and Instagram for upcoming episodes. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.